So they offered to bring the blue form to him. Well, the blue form for welfare, I don't know if it's filled out, but it's not for indefinite anyways. And I need to be on Social Security. I need to be going to see a neurologist and being treated. I need to be running testing. And I need to not be having black urine, not be bleeding internally. I need to be able to walk and drive before I can go back to work. I mean, if I can't even walk down the street without falling, and if I can't drive a car, then there's no way I should be making commerce for the city at pennies on the dollar. No, I should be going to the doctor so I can get better, and then I can go back to work like a normal person. But no, they just want to use me up and get me injured. They don't care if it kills me. They don't care if I fall on the side of the road and bleed. They don't care if I'm doing three people's jobs at work because they're all taking advantage of the disabled man. They don't care anything about the real fact of the matter. You don't have people disabled in my condition falling down on the side of the road, bleeding all over the place, or crawling across traffic to get CT scans. But yet they have me doing these things. And that's because my case is very unique. We got Social Security fraud that they still want to go and continue using. I'm not kidding. We have lots of fraudulent files, fraudulent Social Security cases. We got fraudulent reports going back 15 years of fraudulent reporting from my dead mother. She killed herself because she was lying about her own drinking. Her father was lying about her own drinking. She was popping pills and lying about it. She was taking my Percocet my Vicodin that I was prescribed because she was giving me too many medications that was causing migraines. And I was brought to the emergency room, and the emergency room gave me Vicodin. And my mother decided to pop these Vicodin just like she did with some of my other meds. And she was also drinking heavily, and this caused her liver to fail. So yeah. So I don't really know who to call at this point because I've called the Department of Health and Human Services. I've called Social Security. I've looked at every doctor. I got 5 doctors working at me. I've gone to 3 emergency rooms over and over, as well as in Massachusetts, I went to 2 emergency rooms over and over. And before that, during a teenager, I was brought to 1 emergency room a couple times. Actually, at 2 emergency rooms several times. Either at the program or because I was having severe migraines or I was severely dehydrated. Just a lot of severe side effects to medications. Like one time I was so dehydrated, they were worried I was going to pass out in the waiting room, and they bumped me to the head of the list and rushed me ahead of people with fishing hooks in their neck and shit. There was people bleeding out, and I got put head to the list. So it was really dangerous. Once again, a side effect of the medication mixed with Chinese food almost killed me. My mother's inappropriate control of medication and telling me to take pills I shouldn't be on, and then not monitoring the side effects of those medications and not trying to teach me how to take these medications, even though I shouldn't even be taking them. So there's no need to. I had to learn from the doctors and the teachers, and I had to learn that this is complete nonsense. And my mother was just going crazy. That me taking a pill and getting tired does not mean I'm bipolar. But see, you only know that when you stop the medication. If you stop all medication, then you wait a year. In that year, you'll notice I never get depressed, I never get down. Well, that's because there's no medication involved. But if you start adding things like Seroquel or Thorazine or Xanax or Ritalin or Remeron or Risperidone, all those can have really downing effects. They can cause depression, suicidal thoughts. They're all downers. Well, all but the Ritalin. That's an upper that can counteract the downers. So even if you give me a heavy downer like Thorazine, if you give me a Ritalin about like 5 hours later, it will counteract the Thorazine. So they cancel each other out. And if they're too close together, they cause a speedball effect that makes you wrecked. Like literally, if my night meds I took at midnight and I took my morning meds at 6 a.m., what was Ritalin, then I would be high as a kite speedballed. I'm not kidding. If I took my night meds, that's Thorazine, Seroquel, Trazodone, Lamictal, Remeron, Risperidone, Zyprexa, Xanax, things like that. And then I took my morning doses, what would be like Ritalin, Adderall, Wellbutrin, Xanax, things like that. If you mix those things too close together, I would get a serious speedball in the mornings where the whole room would spin on me. Now, it wouldn't be quite a spin. It would be like my vision was going in and out, kind of. It's hard to describe these things, but I would bring it up to the teacher, I'd bring it up to my mother, and I'd bring it up to the doctor. The thing is, the doctor would give me more meds when I brought these things up. And I don't know why the doctors used to do that. I think it's because they knew what my mother was doing, and I was just a pill farm. I was just the pig taking the pills, and the doctors were the ones just giving me the slop. And then my mother was the actual farmer making the money off of me. She was the farmer saying, yeah, get that slop down for him already. And then the doctor would say, okay, I'm the slop maker. I'm making money off this slop. And then I'm the pig having the force to take these pills, all confused. You know, I'm just a pig. I'm an animal. I don't know what's going on because I'm only 7 years old. I'm only 8 years old. I'm only 9 years old. I'm only 12 years old. I'm only 14 years old. It wasn't until my mother died at about 19 and a bunch of last pieces of the puzzles came together. For one, I finally started watching my mother drink heavily, pop pills. You know, she kept on getting caught. I was old enough to see my mother popping my pills and stuff. You know, she was getting caught doing these things. Not that anybody cared. My father would help her cover it up. I once brought him and said, hey, my mom's taking my Vicodin out of the closet. Can you please tell her not to do that? And instead it got turned around and I shouldn't be watching them. I shouldn't be watching TV in the bedroom. I had permission to watch TV in there. I watched my mother pop my pills in the closet and I told her not to. And then I told my father, that's all. Please don't be popping my Vicodin. And stuff like that used to happen all the time. But my father would help my mother hide it. So today, when I try to call the doctor, they don't listen. They don't listen. They don't try to do any real further testing. Now I have a neurologist that seems to finally do testing. I have to go to the emergency room this or next week, and we're going to get some more neurological testing done. So at least we're getting somewhere with this neurologist. But the primary care has had me crawl across traffic, has not tried to issue a wheelchair, has not tried to issue canes, has not tried to write any paperwork, has not read do not lift orders properly. I mean, even when I needed to be excused for work because I was bleeding internally, she made it seem like a sick note. I mean, this is the most inappropriate bullshit I ever seen. Like, I needed a do not lift order, and they wrote I was excused from gym class. What the fucking shit is that? Not only that, I got paperwork coming from a pharmaceutical company saying they might have accidentally put steel shards in one of my medications. I show it to the doctors, they don't even look into it. I mean, I mentioned that I was on Thorazine and I'm having trouble walking today. Now, I've heard from a different doctor that that's something that should be looked into. These doctors haven't even started even thinking of that. I mean, I have to basically do all the work for these doctors, and then they won't even take the work. I mean, it's fucking impossible. And that's because my father has made sure it's impossible. There's no way that a disabled man who can't drive, can't walk, can't talk with too much stimulus, when he tries to move his arm, his leg shakes, when this shit happens, there's no way this man can fix 15 years of somebody else's mistakes. That's almost impossible. So who do I call? The Ghostbusters? I've been calling the Department of Health and Human Services. I'm getting nowhere. I've been calling welfare. I've been getting nowhere. I've been calling my father, getting nowhere. I've been calling my brother, getting nowhere. I've called the emergency room, and I've gone to the emergency room several times and got nowhere. I've gone to the neurology, and I've got a little somewhere. I'm on Triliptal and in the house, or when I'm in the warmth, I can now stand on ladders a little more confidently. It's given me like an 80% improvement when I'm warm. It's great. Or when I'm sleeping and I'm warm, like if I'm asleep or something like that, I get a lot of improvement. Sometimes I even wake up in the middle of the night with my voice still good from my night meds. So this is a very good thing. But who the hell am I supposed to call? I've gone everywhere. I've gone to every doctor. There's nothing more I can do. That's the problem. I keep on thinking, who can I call? Where can I go? Who can I talk to? Who can I report this to? Who can I show this evidence to? Who will drive me to go get this evidence? Who will believe me? Who can look this up? Who can help me with this? Who has the medical files to go over what I'm telling them and understand this? Who can actually financially help me? Who can get me the Social Security I need? Who can put down the paperwork? Who can get the old paperwork? Who can transport me? obviously working was a bad idea, but it did help for a while. But now I've run out of time and I've made myself more injured because I went to work. I should have never been working in my condition. I knew that. But I like working. I enjoy it. And it needed to happen. There was no other choice. We needed the Social Security to be turned on. We needed toilet paper to wipe my ass. We needed transportation to get to the doctor. We needed taxi fare to get to the doctor. The buses, we needed to get a new ID. We needed all this type of stuff. So I had to make a little bit of money, and I did so, but I ended up falling on the side of the road, having seizures, getting bloody, injuring my knees, injuring my back, injuring my head, more concussions, more seizures, more falls in front of customers. There's so much that happened in the last 6 years because I've tried to work and I shouldn't have been. Well, now I'm too injured to work. There's nothing I can do. Now we're here. I'm going to keep on calling, but who the fuck do I call? I've called everybody already. They haven't called me back or done anything. I mean, who more is there? I've even gone to Portsmouth, Dover. I've gone to other cities' Department of Health and Human Services. And you know what they do? They always send me back to Rochester, New Hampshire. They say, you live in Rochester, you have to deal with Rochester. And that's what I get. I get to die. I get to die because somebody else made bad choices. I don't ever get to live. I didn't get to live and get to go to school. Nope. I didn't get an education. No, I didn't get an education when I was 7 years old in New Mexico. Hell no. Did I get an education when my mother was homeschooling me? Fuck no. Did I get an education at that school in Massachusetts, that little tiny school where we played wiffle ball this was before middle school. I was wicked young. I was 11 years old, 12 years old or so. It was, little kids. I know, I played Yu-Gi-Oh! This is when I first got into Yu-Gi-Oh! Why was I first in the Yu-Gi-Oh? Because that's all I did all day. I played Yu-Gi-Oh! All day long for a year. No education there. Do you think I got an education when we moved to Texas? Yes, I did. But the first 6 months were wasted because they have to figure out where I'm at, what level I'm at. Okay, how about first grade? Do you think I got a proper first grade education? Yes, I did. Twice. I passed the first grade, and then my mother argued with the teacher to try to get me to do first grade again. The teacher said, no, we should move him up. My mother said, no, 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 I know everything. We should hold him back. So my mother kept on calling, telling them, no, I don't want my son to go to the second grade. I want him to redo the first grade. Well, that's because she wanted it for the paperwork for Social Security. She had this narrative she had to push. She liked to make up stories. And by having that on the paper, it's not going to say, oh, the mother wanted it. No, it's going to say the teacher held back Zachary for first grade. All the information that goes along with that. The teacher wanted me to go to second grade. I passed the class better than most of the kids in first grade. I actually came in second with the puzzle things. I came in like fifth of the spelling bee, not the greatest. I came in fifth. I wanted first prize at the spelling bee, but I came in fifth. So I was doing pretty well at that point in first grade. I remember quite a bit of first grade because it was connected to my orphanage. But my mother screamed at the teacher, called her and said, no, I want you to hold my son back. Well, that's because she had a plan already made up. Well, this is a problem. This is a big problem because now I'm missing a bunch of education and I had to play catch up during my childhood. Okay, how about college? Will I ever get to go to college? No, not with all that missing education. Absolutely not. I mean, I basically went to sped schools or no schools my whole life. I mean, I have like a big chunk of no schools, and then the rest of it is special ed schools. So there's no frickin' way. And I spent all my time while at school either drowsy and playing catch up. Half the time I wasn't even able to stay awake in the mornings to hear what was going on in class. I just had to play catch up and figure it out on my own. I had to figure out, okay, 2 plus y equals 4. Well, what the fuck does y equal? And this is not math class. I'm talking about like we're doing history, and I fall asleep through the middle of the morning of history. or I'm zoning out. It's not sleep. I have to try to force my eyes open or they yell at you. I mean, I'm trying to force myself to stay awake, but remember, my mother's drugging me with all these different pills: Thorazine, Seroquel, um, Lamictal, Risperidone. There's Haldol, Xanax. There's all different types of. There's Ritalin, Adderall, uppers, downers, and they pulled the Ritalin out at about 14, 13 or something too, or maybe it was 16. I go from, oh, actually, no, it was, yeah, about 16 maybe. They pulled the Ritalin out because I said I couldn't live without it. I would be dead and I wouldn't be able to stay awake. I told the doctor that. I said, if you pull the Ritalin out, I can't function. I feel sick. I get tired. I feel hungover. My body won't move in the morning. It doesn't work. I told the doctor this and they said, you're becoming an addict to the Ritalin. That's what it is. So we're going to take it away. And that's fine. I actually wasn't becoming an addict to the Ritalin. I was even cutting my dose in half at one point, giving it away. The problem is I was on so many sedative medications at night, it used to hang over to the morning. But no, the doctors weren't like, hey, we have this kid on Thorazine. We have this kid on Seroquel, high doses, like 600 milligrams of Seroquel. We're talking 300 milligrams of Thorazine. We're talking about 200 of Trazodone. We're talking about Lamictal and Risperidone mixed in until my nipples are leaking milk, and they're saying that's fine. It's okay your nipples leak milk. And this is all okay. And then in the morning, I'm hungover, I got the spins, I feel like crap. And normally I take a Ritalin, what's methamphetamine, an upper, what's basically like a low dose of meth. It counteracts all the downers they gave me the night before, so then I can function. But then they take away the Ritalin, so I'm just fucking done until about 10, 11 a.m. I'm just done. I'm not myself. I'm drooling. I can't think. I can't talk. I just seem like the guy in shade glass. I used to wear sunglasses so that way when I didn't talk, I could just sit there and ignore everybody. And sometimes they thought I was asleep too, but I really wasn't. I was just zoned out, kind of like daydream asleep while sitting there. You can't do anything else. Think about taking a bunch of Perk 30s if you ever did that because you got injured. Think about that times 10. That's what just the Thorazine is like alone. A one pill of Thorazine is like taking a shitload of Percocet. Same thing with Seroquel and Trazodone. Well, Trazodone works a little differently. It's a downer with a shorter half-life. You can still get a little bit of a hangover in the morning, but not as severe as the Seroquel, Thorazine. But when you mix these things together, or when you take a child and you give them these type of medications, it has drastic effects. And because they were either giving me an upper in the morning or they took away the upper in the morning, then they gave me the upper in the morning, then they took away the upper in the morning. Then they added more and more downers, more and more suicidal pills that cause suicidal thoughts. I'm not even kidding. Like 3 of the pills I was taking, that clearly say right on the paperwork the pharmacist handed my mother, consult a doctor if your child has suicidal thoughts or depression. Do you think my mother did that? No, she got me more pills to make me feel more suicidal because she didn't want to read the paperwork. My mother thought she could be a doctor without reading any of the paperwork, without knowing any of the side effects. She didn't know anything, nothing about the side effects, but yet she knew everything, she said. So that's why I'm fucked today. This is why I am now, I want to go back to work. But first, we got to get me Social Security, we got to get me a doctor, and we got to get me back to walking and moving and talking all the time. Well, if that doesn't happen, then I'm just going to be dead because I don't see any money coming in, not last month, not the month before. The only money coming in was the money from me working really hard, bleeding at work. I'm not even kidding. There were times where I was bloody at work and I just came right back to work. Like for instance, I was bleeding in my GI. I went to the emergency room and they found a lot of blood in my testicles. I took pictures. We went over what this is. It may be a drip because the GI is where I could feel the pain, but yet the blood was visible in the testicles, so we weren't sure. They did some x-rays. It looked like I had some swelling in the GI, but that's about it. But they didn't do any further testing. I had to see a specialist. We're trying to see the specialist, but she went on maternity leave just as I was supposed to be seeing her. I don't know why they gave me a GI specialist who was about to go on maternity leave when I said this was so important. And when I said this was such, I had so many other illnesses stacking up. but I guess they probably typed in my name and said, we don't see any of these illnesses. We see he's crazy. That's it. So they probably just gave me the maternity leave one because they thought I was full of shit. Then when they realized, oh, wait a minute, this pictures, x-rays, this is real, now they're regretting their decision, so they're going to want to pass me off to a different GI. That's usually the process. First, I tell them what's wrong, and they want to help me. Then they look up my name, and they read what my mother and father said. So they don't believe the statement they just had. First I sit down, I have a conversation with the doctor. They believe me, they understand me, it makes perfect sense. Then they type my name into the computer and they do a quick little medical record check, and they see all the bullshit my mother made up, all the fantasies my mother spun, all the bullshit my father went along with. So then they go, well, this guy's just a crazy guy looking for attention. He probably just wants to show his testicles around or something. So at that point, they say, well, we're not going to waste our time giving him the good doctor in our office. Let's give him Tracy, who's only 30 and about to go on medical leave, seeing as this kid wants to fuck with us. We'll send him on a fucking loop. We'll drive this kid nuts. He thinks he can come in here and waste our time. We'll treat this kid a lesson. So then they teach me a lesson, right? Meanwhile, I'm bleeding internally into my testicles going to work. So I'm at work with my testicles swollen to triple, double the size, filled with blood. Literally, why am I at work? Because my coworker called out to smoke weed and nobody can cover. So they call me and I say, well, yeah, there's no other way. Because once again, if I don't, the store closes. And I still have a shift coming up. So I work that shift and I try to get a weekday off. I work her shift on, let's say, a Saturday, or my boss brings me in on a Sunday because I don't have any transportation. And maybe I can go to the emergency room or doctor's on a Monday. This is fucked up. And why can't I take a day off of work? Because I have medical bills, because I got toilet paper, because I need to keep on getting better. As soon as I don't work, my income stops. I can't even get back from the emergency room. If I take an ambulance, let's say on a Sunday, that's happened before. One time I had a seizure and it was Sunday. I got stuck at the emergency room. They released me all bloody when they shouldn't have, but I had no way home. I called the taxi. There wasn't even any taxi. He said he wasn't running. They stopped running. They only could take their personal car for $30. Oh. Well, now I have to scrape up $30 what I don't have. Well, I guess I'm going to have to work while injured again, won't I? So that's the thought that comes to my head. And then guess what? A month later, I'm back to work injured, falling down on the side of the road, bleeding some more. Why? Because I have no money to get around. Nothing's moving. No paperwork's getting done. The fucking Department of Health and Human Services is playing games. My GI is playing games. My neurologist is doing the right thing, but they're passing me around. On top of this, my good GI doctor bailed out on me because my aunt got the number. As soon as I give my phone, any doctor's phone number, to my father's wife, what used to be my aunt / mother's best friend / sister, whatever, as soon as I give them a phone number, those people get fucked up. My family calls and tries to get me killed every time. Every time. That's exactly what happens. Anytime I let my family, my father, into my life, he purposely lets his wives try to kill me. Every single time. They literally think what they say and what they do have no consequences. Well, I only made a phone call. Well, I only went down there. Well, I only said something that I wanted to say. What's wrong with that? They don't think about how the words that come out of their fucking mouths could have serious damage to another human being. I understand what I'm saying here might have consequences for my father. But after 25 years, I've asked him to take his own responsibility where there would be no consequences. I've told him I would team up with him and help him through this. I told him that I have no hard feelings against what he did to me, but I do have hard feelings about what my mother did to me. But first, he has to admit that it was wrong. He has to try to make it better, and he needs to stop trying to make things worse. Still to this day, he's trying to make things worse, trying to cover up his crimes. His wives are calling doctors and making them drop out on me. I'm not even kidding. I literally worked so hard to get that doctor to come up from Boston up to Rochester to see me. We have a whole thing going, and then as soon as I give the phone number to my father and his new wife, oh, he's out. The best doctor I have is gone. Same thing with my primary care. Soon as my primary care gets my father's phone number and my family's phone number, a whole the 360 spin happens.